right. Well, welcome again to another episode of From There to Here. I'm your host, Lawrence Temple, and I have a friend from once upon a time that I have here on the show. This is Dr. Michelle Gillis, and she is I don't like to say much about what or who my guests are because one of my first questions is I'll have them label themselves. But she's on here because of her journey as a professional, as an educator, as a business person, and I think maybe journey might be kind of the key word that will keep coming up in this conversation. All right. So, with no further ado, Michelle, how are you?
I am blessed. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It means a lot. First of all, this reunion, seeing your face after all these years. Facebook and social media just doesn't do it justice, right? So it's
Agreed.
nice to connect. And I'm really honored. And you mentioned the word journey. The path that I've been on has been a journey, and I am so grateful for every step and for every misstep. I don't know how deep I can go in this conversation because I don't know who your audience is.
It's
But I do have to just say this, that God has been good. He's gone before me. He's always provided exactly what I needed before I needed it. Yeah. And I just, I can't sing his praises enough. And I just can't not express my gratitude for my life's path.
No, I get that, and the audience is the audience. Whoever it is, people of background X, fill in the X. All right, it's for humans. Um, well, let's back up. Let me do the one question I do always ask. If you had to step on an elevator and someone's on there, and you're gonna do your elevator speech. You're gonna describe who and what you are in 6 seconds or something. As unfair as that is, what would you say if that question came up? Who are you?
Sure. I'm Dr. Michelle Donice Gillis. I'm the founder of the North Star. It's a community of women, and I have to point out that it's a diverse community of women. We have an online platform with in-person meetups. We represent all parts of this beautiful country that we're in, and we're more than just networking. We are together. We're a community of empowered women to help each other grow personally and professionally so that we can live our fullest lives.
I love that. That is an elevator speech of elevator speeches. That's a good one. And yes, part of your North Star work as a group and even your book is kind of what put you on the radar for me to say, hey, I've got to have her on the show. Let's go back in time though, before we get to current days. I'm a middle school teacher, so let's go back to little Michelle, sixth, seventh grade type age. What did you think about your future? What did you envision it being when you were a kid? And how similar is your life today to what you thought back then?
That's an excellent question. I have two very distinct memories. One was I have a great aunt who's in her 90s right now, and she's a retired educator. Her whole life, her passion was teaching others. And I knew that that was the last thing that I ever wanted to do. I was like, no, thank you. Nope. But I remember when I was little, she asked me, and this is my Aunt Nell, she asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to be a writer. And I don't even know if I knew what that meant, but I knew that that was the career path for me. So then time goes on, I get into high school, and it's when I say that I want to be a writer, I'm immediately told that that's not a career choice, that is a hobby, right? So I started to think more practical, and I was like, oh, I told my friends I wanted to be a business owner, but I didn't really know what that meant,
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
be a business owner. I told people that all the time. Went to college, changed my major, and I changed my major several times because as a young person, I listened to what people told me I was good at instead of honoring the gifts that God gave me. Okay.
Yes, I felt what you just said.
Yes. So in college, my major was mass comm, because at the time my professors thought I had the CNN look, that I'm relatively articulate, I can think on my feet. So that was my major. And I had an internship my junior year with WFTV in Channel 9.
Yeah.
And that internship showed me, although they were lovely people, I had a great experience, I knew that wasn't the career path for me. So
Okay.
I was just, yeah, months away from graduation. And I was like, it was going to take too much time to go back and get an education degree. So I finished up, I took some English courses, finished up with a journalism minor. So major in mass comm, minor in journalism. And I immediately went back to school and earned my education degree. So then I started teaching. Yeah. So I started teaching high school, and it was great. I love teaching writing. I love talking literature. I did that for several years with
Mm-hmm.
Volusia County Schools. And a former professor at Bethune-Cookman said, I think that you would be really great at the college level. Can I mentor you? And she mentored me, went back and earned my PhD, and then spent many years in higher ed. And then, that door closed. And when that door closed, I spent some time trying to figure out, like, what was it that I was supposed to do next. And I mentioned earlier that I'm so grateful for that, because my identity had gotten tied up into my profession, and our profession should never be our identity.
Mm.
That university had become my source, and a university, an institution, a job should never be your source. So when all of that disappeared from my life,
Okay.
I had to do some soul searching to figure out, what did this next chapter of my life look like? And the reason that I say I'm so grateful for this is because I'm finally operating in my purpose. So I was in what I thought was my purpose, educating people,
Yes.
but I was boxed in because there's a curriculum. So I feel like I was the most effective mentoring young people outside of the classroom. Like, I can teach English, like, this is a verb, this is how you write an essay.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back on the young people's lives that I touch and who are still a part of my life, I
Yes.
taught them how to live. I taught them how to look at a setback as a setup for a comeback. I taught them resilience. I taught them just like how to exist. And those are the students that I'm most proud of, not the ones that got the high scores on the exams or got the high paying
Mm-hmm.
jobs. It's the students who raised themselves out of poverty, who got in trouble and who were able to get back on the right track. Those students. And so now with my
Yes.
business, the North Star, I do that with women from all walks of life. I bring them together and we grow together. We share our experiences, our failures, our missteps, our successes, because I still believe that when women come together, magic happens. Like, we are truly, I don't know the word that I'm looking for. Like, we're the glue that holds society together.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say this, just kind of as an aside. My husband's birthday was Monday, and then July 4th, yesterday on Tuesday. And he was just talking, like, I had, done everything up for his birthday, and then, had the house, decorating everything for Independence Day.
Mm.
And he looked around, he was like, you know what? If I were by myself, I never would have gone through all of this trouble. He was like, women just bring, and these are his words, not mine. Women bring so much beauty and so much faith and hope to everything. And he was like, I would have just made a burger and sat here and ate it. He's like, I wouldn't clean up anything, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's like celebration, right? And I think that's what's so beautiful about the work that I get to do now, that I get to uplift women, I get to connect them, I get to mentor them, I get to be mentored, I get to share what I've learned along the path, and I get to learn from other women who
Yes.
have grown in different areas. So I feel very, very privileged that I get to do what I do and to get paid for it, and that all of the things that I did before brought me to this point. Like there are no mistakes. Like it's all orchestrated.
Mm. Goodness, you keep saying things that one are on the same wavelength as other guests who you've never talked, and these similar themes keep coming up. Um, you mentioned coming into purpose. You mentioned your gifts. All of these things have come up in previous episodes, totally unrelated people, which is very exciting to me. Um, you mentioned how at one point your identity, I think you said, was wrapped up in your profession or the place where you worked. Can you talk more about the danger of getting your identity from the wrong thing?
Right. It's a false identity for one. It's incredibly dangerous because we end up putting too much energy and time, sometimes resources, into this thing that is false. Because what we do is not who we are ever.
Got that.
Okay. So I could be, and let's say I'm an attorney today. I could get disbarred tomorrow, or I could have a car accident that prevents me from working. And if my identity is tied up into what it is that I do, the
Okay.
moment that thing is taken away, or it's altered in any way, it can lead to depression. It could lead, I mean, the consequences are negative. Our identity can never be in our material things, in our salaries, or in the title that's on the door. It just cannot be. And I have to say this as an educator, and this,
Yes.
students worry so much about what they're going to do when they grow up. And I wish our educational system would refocus on who are you? Like, are you a good citizen? Like, can you be a good citizen? Can you take care of other people? Can you be kind? Can you be gentle? Can you vote? Those things that make us part of a democracy, as opposed to this is how much money I make and this is my job title. Like, none of that matters ever. So
Yeah,
that's my
I,
thoughts.
I'm familiar with my words because I agree so much with what you're saying. Two, my last two guests talked about similar things. You mentioned when you lose that job that your identity was in. One of my previous guests was a top level college athlete, and he talked about when he got to the point to realize college is over and I'm going to be a professional. He's a successful person now, but he and other athletes have told me they went into this depression, into this black hole, because what I am since I'm 6 years old is football, basketball, whatever, and that it was taken from them, and they had to relearn who they were. So same thing
Right.
that you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's such a false narrative because it's not who you are. It's what you're good at.
Mhm.
But what
Hmm.
I'm good at is not who I am. Like, I'm a good cook, but I'm not a
Okay,
chef,
I
you know?
see. Okay.
Who am I? I am a kind, loving, generous individual. That's who I am. And that's what's going to matter. People are not going to remember my job title. They're not going to remember my salary. They're not going to remember where I worked 100 years from now. They're not. Although I'd love it to think that they will, they're not.
Hmm.
What they're going to remember is how I made them feel, how I helped them, how I made their experience a better one. So,
And I have a story to tell you about that maybe after we get off, that totally amens what you were just talking about. Um, you mentioned just now, you said what everyone should be able to do. You said positive things about yourself, that you're caring and generous and things like that. Why is it that do you think there are people who find it difficult to say good things about themselves? Like, it would be hard for them to say, I am kind, I am good, I am intelligent. I know with students, I remember trying making a student, I had to make her say, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, because it was hard for her. Why do you think that is, that it's hard for many people to compliment themselves when the compliment is just a fact?
yeah. I think it's twofold. One, we don't want to come across as arrogant or big-headed or conceited. So we try to humble ourselves, but the truth is nothing comes from us playing small. We were created to be big.
I like that.
Um, and when we try to pretend like we're less than and we don't let our light shine, it holds everybody else back, because when you're fabulous, I get to be fabulous. When you're on your A game, I get to be on my A game. You give me permission to be my best. And if you're holding back, then I feel like I have to hold back too. I think the second thing, I had an uncle who passed away when I was very young. He was an uncle by marriage. And he used to say something that I never understood. And then when I had children, like, I got it. But, like when your kids are small and they do something that's bad, like, I hate to say bad, but when they misbehave,
Yeah.
the first thing as parents we want to say is, who do you think you are? Like, who do you think you are that you can do that?
Mm-hmm.
And only response to that question, he told me, is nobody. So I never said that to my children. So think
Okay.
about this. If I said this to you, Lawrence, who do you think you are? Anything other than nobody would be disrespectful.
Okay.
Okay. So
Wow.
yeah. So, thankfully, like, he would say it, and my mother never asked me, like, who do you think you are? Because if I had turned around, thankfully my mother didn't do this because of him. But if she had said, who do you think you are? And I had said, I am bright, I'm intelligent, I am destined to be great things, I would have probably be getting up off the floor.
Right.
Right. Because it would have been disrespectful, it would have been mouthy, but it was all true.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of times, like, from a parental point of view and from an educator's point of view as well, that we don't speak life into young people, so they never learn how to speak life over themselves. And they don't want to be disrespectful by saying something
Okay.
about themselves that they've never heard anyone around them say. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm doing a roll call of different students that I've dealt with. And I can see how what you're saying, it plays out. And even the
Yeah.
kid who's outwardly brash or bold or seems confident, they might feel like a true zero on the inside.
Yeah.
It's connected to everything that you were just saying.
Yeah. I had a student very early on, actually beginning of my career. I think it was my first year teaching at Seabreeze High School.
Mm.
And I have a student that I taught then that made the wrong choices, and he's now incarcerated. And he reached out to me on Facebook and he said, thank you for telling me who I really am. He said, I didn't realize who I am until I got locked away. He said, because I was trying to be like them, but
Okay.
that was never who I was. He was bright. He was a leader. And I would tell him all the time, like, you're too good for this. You need to stop doing that. But he couldn't see it for himself until it was too late, because he had so many people telling him, you're a thug, you're this, you're that. And he was none of those things, none of them. And he realizes that now.
I got it. An administrator also who worked at Seabreeze, I was there after you, Miss Jones, it's Jackie Jones. I don't know if she was there when you were there. And
Yes.
we would talk about when kids got it, like when the light went on. And she would say something to the extent, it's not when they get it, it's whether they get it. So different people, the light comes on at different times, but as long as it comes on at some point, then it's a win. So he didn't get it till later, but it came on.
And you mentioned her name. I don't know if you're still in contact with her, but please send her my love. She was an amazing person to work for. I don't know if she realizes how much she influenced me.
I will reach out to her. Yeah, I put her on that pedestal just like a whole lot of other people do too. Could you talk to us about the thing that put you on the radar again for this show was your book about finding your the North Star, and then I saw it connected to the other things you're doing. Could you talk about that book and the thoughts and the genesis behind it? Because, but I don't want to say any more about it. Talk about it, please.
Yeah. So I see myself as a creative writer. My first book was a novel. I've written short stories. I've always enjoyed fiction. And I have something that I'm working on that I've been working on forever that's fiction. But I had several life experiences happen like back to back to back. And as I tried to write that other book, I kept coming back to what I felt like God was telling me I was supposed to do.
Okay.
So I sat down and I started writing, not necessarily my life story, but the lessons that I learned during the darkest period of my life. And the whole idea of the North Star, especially during slavery, as the brightest star in the sky, it led us to freedom. But it's also something that's within us. It's that still small voice, that whisper that tells us, hey, you're off track. Hey, this is what you need to do. You need to ignore all those messages. This is where I need you. And I started writing about that. And it was very, very apparent to me as I was writing it. And then even now, more so as people have shared their experience with the book, that I think it's important for us to share our scars. And I make the distinction in the book that we're not to share our wounds. So if something's happened to me and I'm still grieving it or healing it, I need to take it to a therapist or to a pastor. You know, I can't, I need to take it to someone who's equipped to handle it.
Okay.
But once I've healed, once I have a testimony, I think it's imperative that we share that. Like, this is how I made it through. And I think that, at least I hope that the North Star is a roadmap for how I made it through the mistakes that I made that I didn't even realize that I was making. And I'll give you an example, actually, too. In one chapter, I talk about forgiveness. And you know, I had been estranged from my father for the majority of my life. I had so much resentment for him. Just, he was never the kind of father that I needed him to be. I was angry, you know, with God because, like, why would I have this person as my father?
Okay.
I felt cheated and angry and disappointed. And then my father died. And I had to travel to Accra, West Africa, to claim his body. And while I was there, I learned just how much my father did love me. I was surrounded by his friends. So I went to the country thinking that I didn't really have a father, that I'd been cheated out of having a father. And I had 6 men who had been standing in the gap, praying for me, watching me grow, that I didn't even know of. These were my father's friends. They knew everything about my life. You know, and they still text me, call me for my birthday. And, you know, now I have this relationship with them. But it required me to forgive my father. It required me to let go of this expectation of how he should have behaved. He did the best that he could he made the choices that he felt that he needed to make. Okay. They're not the choices I would have made as a parent. He made them. But the book is about that, about moving through missteps and setbacks and getting to the point where I could move forward. Another incident, and I talk about this in the book. I was dating someone and I had a friend pull me aside and say, that's not God's best for you. And that was like, whoa, I never thought about that. Like, how many times we accept counterfeit when we're supposed to have the real thing. So I was eating Hershey's chocolate and God had Godiva for me,
Okay.
you know, and I was eating it like, oh, this is good. And it wasn't what, like, we settle, we think that this is all we were worth, or this is all
Hmm.
that we deserve, or this is whatever. And when my friend said that this is not God's best for you, it made me like it really hit me like, whoa.
Okay.
I got just quickly, I got a text this morning from someone who's reading the book, and she took a picture of the chapter, and she was like, I need this one. And the chapter is called Stop Giving Your Power Away. How often we give our power away, especially I'm talking to the young women out there. Stop giving your power away. Stop it. Okay. I'm just going to leave it there because that's a conversation for a whole nother day.
Oh,
But
wow.
so often we don't operate in our power, and we give it away to people who don't deserve it, who haven't earned it, and who don't know what to do with it. So I'll stop there.
Man, it was a huge temptation to take a total detour onto that
I
whole
know. That's what I
thing.
was like, I'll stop.
Wow. Okay, but I felt all of what you were saying right there. Uh, I got it. It seemed like a lot of the theme coming out of things you're talking about. I'm going to call it recycling. Maybe there's a better word for that, but taking situations that were not good, and instead of them letting them be a black mark forever, finding good out of them or letting them be transferred into maybe a stepping stone for the future. What would you say? I got about 10 minutes so here, I guess. So I have a couple of hypotheticals I want to give you that play in the things you've talked about. What about the person, I'll say it's a woman, maybe a young woman, who has things she feels like she has maybe an eye on what her purpose or future should be, but she's made mistakes and she's shackled with shame of whatever it was that she did or that was done to her. But shame is clouding her picture of what she can be, tomorrow. Do you have any kind of suggestions, directions for that talented, gifted person, but yesterday is this big hindrance for her?
There's so much there that I want to unpack. First of all, I want to clarify that I absolutely do not believe that negative things happen. I think that
Hmm.
things happen and we perceive them as negative. My faith tells me that my steps are ordered. So
Okay.
even when I have something that in the natural, I think, oh, wow, like I just got into a car accident, my car's total, let's say, that no, because maybe there was something faulty with my car and that accident prevented me from being stranded someplace where I would have been unsafe or
Okay.
whatever it is. I just don't see it as negative. I see it as a learning opportunity.
Okay.
As for me. And to the young woman who may be riddled with shame, I would suggest that she go within to remind herself of who she really is. It may mean that she finds a counselor, a therapist, a pastor, someone that she can trust, to help, an accountability coach, because I do that, to remind her of who she actually is. And then you had said this, when you were introducing the question, she's so riddled with shame about her past. She needs to get to the present because the past is behind us. Like there's nothing there. We are supposed to live in the present. There is a kind of this, there's a person who was quoted, and it doesn't matter who he is, or what his claim to fame is, but he's been quoted as saying, we're either now here, so now here, or we're nowhere. So to that young woman, like if you write out the words now here,
Yeah.
depending on where you separate it, it can be nowhere. So to that young woman, she needs to come to the present. What does she have to be proud of in this moment? And when I'm coaching people, I often tell them, they're like so worried about the past and the future. I'm like, what do you need in this moment? Like right now at 4:36, what need do you have that's not met? None. Don't worry about 437.
I
Don't
see.
worry about 435.
Mm-hmm.
Right here in this moment, each of us has everything that we need. So if we focus on who am I in this moment, I'm happy. In this moment, I'm having a conversation with you. In this moment, I'm thriving. It does not matter what happened the moments before now, because those no longer exist. I cannot put my attention on those. I am to look forward in this moment. And I'm not supposed to project to 6 hours, 6 minutes, 6 seconds in the future. This moment is all that I have. And I need to be grateful and joyous and powerful in this moment. So
This moment is all that I have. I like that. Boils down so much of what you were saying in a few words. And I think that ghost of yesterday or that ghost of tomorrow hinders people so much. Well, all right, I guess my last question, I don't want it to be, but I'll say that for the moment. My other hypothetical that I ask a lot of guests: pretend that a friend of yours has a child, boy or girl, who's about to graduate high school. They have the smarts, they've been accepted into college, so they literally any option is open to them, but they're just not sure of what direction they want to go. So your friend says, "Will you take my son, daughter out and just talk with them, and maybe you can say something that can help them on that path." So if you had that imaginary conversation with Billy or Sally, what would you envision that conversation being like?
it would probably be pretty one-sided, the conversation with Billy or Sally, because I wouldn't do a lot of talking. I would do a lot of listening.
Okay.
I think Billy and Sally would know what they really want to do. They have a desire deep in their heart. They just may not realize it yet. So I'd ask that person, like, what do you want to bring forth into this world? What is it? When your time is over, when, to this child that's 17, 18 years old, let's say 100 years from now, what do you want to be remembered for? And I think that might help that child figure out what he or she wants to do with their career. So, let's say if the child says, I want to be remembered for creating let me say this, I want to be remembered for helping people with cancer because my, relative had cancer, or I want to help kids who are afraid because I grew up in foster care. Whatever it is, that comes forth from that conversation, then I'd say, okay, now let's see how you can do that and get paid for it. So it could be, I just want to draw. Okay, I just love drawing. I want people to remember me for my drawing. Okay, so let's now figure out what you can major in that will help you get paid for drawing. Yeah, I think it's more important to listen to young people because they know what they really do know. And you know this in the classroom, kids know, they're just afraid to share because they're afraid that they're not going to make money or they're going to be laughed at. Or what they're imagining hasn't even been considered as a career yet. The world is changing that they don't even know how to articulate it. They know, like, I know, I think I can do this, but there's not a job out there for me. Create your own. And I have to say this to my families of Black and brown children.
Yes.
We need to stop teaching our children that they've got to go out and get a job. We need to remind them of the power of entrepreneurship. So instead of saying, you need to go to school and major in this so you can get a job at XYZ. No, let them learn whatever skill or trade so they can create a job for themselves and for their community.
Special thanks to our guest, Dr. Michelle Gillis, for what she shared today about purpose, about where your real identity should come from, about growth, so many things. We appreciate her. And thank you for joining us again. We'll see you next time on From There to Here.